Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of Talking Figures. As always, I am Tony, being joined by a magical guest. As you can see, he's in the green realm. You guys know him on the chats as Neekotronko. He is a 3D printer, collector. We're going to be sitting down today. We're going to be talking about his process and everything in between. I'm happy to have you here, brother. You guys know him as
Thank you for
Neekotronko.
having me.
We here at the pre-roll refer to you as Neekotronko. Welcome to the
I
show,
love that.
Nico.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Tone. I appreciate it. It's awesome to be
Um,
on.
Yes, I listen. I want to say thank you, guys like you who are always in the chats talking, and when you exchange ideas, especially when I was talking about 3D printing, you were a
Yeah.
big help there. So we're
Wow.
definitely going to get into 3D printing, and because you've printed a
100%.
lot of cool stuff that I've seen, so we're definitely going to get into that. But first, I'm going to start where I start with all my guests, and
All
that
right.
is the obligatory. When you start collecting, and what line got you into collecting, and when did you realize, oh, I'm a collector now?
So, you know how everybody, you go through puberty, you start looking at boobs and butts, and you're less inclined to you want to shove the toys away. Um, I was looking at the boobs and butts, but I wasn't shoving the toys away. I was still buying toys.
Oh hell yeah!
And yeah, like my level of nerdiness outshined everything else because I wasn't afraid about it. Um, the school I went to, like middle school, I was picked on a lot because I was comfortable with my nerdiness. And
Yeah,
like I I couldn't give two shits about people trying to be tough guys or anything like that. I was more concerned with my sketchbook and
oh yeah,
whatever comics I had and whatever I was drawing.
oh yeah.
So like, that to me, like, I don't know, cartoons and action figures were always like the biggest draw for me, but figures more than anything. Like I've been like from wrestling to Transformers to Joe to all the newer random indie stuff that's out there today. It's like there's so much cool shit,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's only so much space. So like I'm 47 now, so like I've got, you know, 4 decades ish of toys in my collection of stuff that
Oh
I've had
wow.
from the time I was a kid to,
Yeah,
you know, to current. And like it takes up so much space, and I've got a basement full of stuff, and then I've also got a storage facility where there's even more stuff. And it's
yeah,
like it's overwhelming. It's to a point where I need to start going through and culling and just streamlining some of it because like I said, that's a long time to just be,
yes.
nonstop. Like earlier today, I saw who somebody did. Oh, it was Ninja's video on the Power Ranger Command Center thing. That Duarte did that
Yeah,
beautiful
yeah,
dio. Um, in that he mentioned like KB Toys and how as a kid he used to go in there with his parents and like they never had the Power Ranger Command Center. And like just seeing the pictures that he had in his video and hearing him talk about that, it brought me back to a time, when KB was still around and I was like an older teenager. I was working, I had a little bit of cash, and I would go in there and just, it was awesome. It was such a great store because you could get, 3 or 4 whatever figures from whatever line for $10 and,
yeah.
walk out
That's
the door and
expensive.
just have fun.
Yeah. Well, hold on.
Um,
So let me bring it back real quick.
sure,
So
sure, sure.
you didn't tell me what lines. So when you
Oh
would,
man.
so here's my, but first before we get there, because
Yeah.
you said something kind of interesting because nobody ever says this. Because
Hmm.
everybody says that when they start collecting, they drop it because becomes time to
Right,
grow up.
right. The boobs and the
You said,
butts.
yeah, you said screw it. I'm gonna keep on going. Did
Hmm.
that did that ever affect, or did they respect the fact that you embraced it? Like, because for me, because like when I was going through those teen years, I didn't give a shit about any of that stuff because
Yeah.
all I wanted to do was be a pro wrestler. So that's where
Yeah.
my mind was. It was always
Hell yeah.
there. So like, nobody tended to respect that, by the way.
No, no, oh, bro, absolutely.
Yeah.
Up
So
until, like, the Monday Night Wars, until, like, things
yeah,
got super fucking cool again.
yeah.
No,
No, I was pretty ridiculed for liking wrestling, especially in the
bro,
mid-90s.
same,
But for
same.
you, okay, so but for you, did like I said, you were trying to do both.
Yeah.
Did it work in that time period, or what happened?
Not only did it work,
Okay.
young Neek here at the, tender age of 14, his first girlfriend, like, the first, um, she was not only older than me, I was a freshman, she was a sophomore, but she was also kind of wrestling royalty. Well, at least part of a lineage.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
I don't want to say her first name because she's kind of a private person, but
Yeah.
her last name is Farhat,
Okay.
and she is a cousin of Sabu and a great granddaughter of the original Sheik.
So Sikh. Yeah. God
So
damn. Right
yeah.
on.
So, like, I kinda lucked out in that regard, and we're still actually really good friends, so that's
Okay.
kinda cool.
Yeah. Right on, dude.
Um, but yeah, like, that didn't play against. I worked at Toys R Us for a while, and, like, she had a car, so, like, she'd come and pick me up after work and stuff like
Wonderful.
that, or even
Well,
before I
you
got
were
off work.
embracing your roots or embracing
Yep.
your nerd side. Like I
Well,
said,
dude,
sometimes they respect it. Sometimes they like when you're you. I notice people
mm,
tend to respect you a lot more when you're you.
they do, like, that's actually kind of one of the things about life that's, like, funny too, is because the older you get,
Yeah.
you can read that a mile away when someone's, like, just going through the motions, not necessarily passionate about it, not somebody
Yeah. Yeah.
who cares about what's really happening or what's going on in whatever it is, whether it's toys, comics, wrestling,
Yeah.
whatever you could be interested in.
Yeah. Facts, dude.
Um, yeah, and, like, for me, I had such a broad taste. Like, my favorite characters as a kid were Luke Skywalker, Duke from G.I. Joe, and
Okay.
Optimus Prime. Those were my big three.
Born
So,
leader.
like, all three of them were just, like, the utmost inspiration. So that was
Yeah.
always, like, my mindset was, like, to be the best good guy I could be as a kid. As an adult, now I'm like, oh, Megatron, Starscream, Cobra Commander. That's where
That's
it's
how
at.
we always start like that. We start young. We want to be superheroes. We get to
Yep.
an age where it's cool to be the bad guy. And
Yep.
then, like I found it, whereas the older I get, the more I realize, well, the harder part is to be the good guy because he's got to deal with all the bullshit that the bad guy kind
All
of shortcuts
Yep.
when the shit pops off. So it's like, in the end, it's one of those things where you can always, listen, you can always be a bad guy. Everybody always
Oh,
needs a heel. That's what I always
yeah.
say, right? Everybody
Yep.
always needs a heel, but it's harder to be the baby face, man. So as long as
It's
what you're doing is good to you and it's good to people, you're not hurting nobody. That's all that
definitely,
matters, you know.
you
So
know,
sometimes you got to be Megatron, though. I get
oh, absolutely, that fusion cannon's badass.
it.
You
so
know, like,
let's get back to toys real quick.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
What was the you've been collecting for 4 decades now, so now I got to ask this
yeah,
question.
yeah, oh,
And
yeah.
what is the grail piece in Neekotronus' collection then in terms of toys?
So it's such a it always comes back to this, which
Yeah.
is going to be like G1 Optimus Prime. Um,
Okay. Okay.
but there are a couple of variations of that I own that kind of take precedent just because they're more cartoon accurate versus, like, the original toy version.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so, like, last year, Takara Tomy put out the Missing Link Optimus Prime, which was basically the original toy from 1984,
Yeah.
except they gave it 2024 articulation. Like, it's got ab crunch, it's
Oh,
got
jeez.
wrist swivel, it's got ankle tilt, it's got hips that it never had. Like, you could never move the legs forward on the
Yeah.
original. You were, like,
Yeah.
basically stuck with him standing. So, like, to have that, like, toy that I had as a kid, but now it's
Update it.
actually got articulation and you can put it in poses and do stuff with it. That
Yeah.
one's got it like just climbed right into my heart. So that
Hell yeah,
I'd
dude.
say that's
Are you
probably it.
you're a Transformers guy then? That would be
So
your
I've always been a Transformers guy. Like I've always loved Transformers, but
okay.
not exclusively a Transformers guy. Like I have so many of them, and I
Yeah,
mean from all the iterations, practically every iteration except for the live action movies. I fucking hate the live action movies. Those are not the Transformers. Optimus Prime does not look like a bug who's covered in shit who then has metal slapped on top of him. Like I don't like the Michael Bay movies, the designs. People will always
did you like what they tried when they tried to make it look more like the '80s version?
yeah, it, the more recent ones like the Bumblebee and the
Yeah,
last one they did,
yeah,
those were definitely better,
yeah.
but it's almost like what Hasbro's doing now with toys. It's too little, too late. You
I
know?
know I said the same thing. Like, here's the thing. I actually I'm the same as boat as you. I didn't care for those Michael Bay movies. I just felt it was a lot of
Mhm.
explosions and silly,
Yeah,
like just ridiculousness.
I
Um,
almost worked on one of them too, which like I'm
oh
sure
wow!
had I. What's that?
You said you almost worked on one of them?
Yeah, I almost worked on the one with the Dinobots because they filmed some of it in downtown Detroit. I think that was Age of Extinction was
Yeah,
what that
yeah, I
was
think so.
called. There was an open casting call, and I went and did it. Got a call back,
Yeah,
and actually made it onto the set. And when I got onto the set, there were these hazmat uniforms, which is what I was going to be
yeah,
on screen if I was going to be on screen.
yeah,
But you wouldn't have seen my face. It was
yeah,
fully covered head to toe in like this just like orange yellow thing. And There was another dude there who got there before I did, he had like a longer upper body. So
okay.
he took the top from what would have been my
Yours,
uniform
yeah.
and didn't tell anybody that he did, and nobody could find the one that went with my pants. So they were like, "Sorry, we're gonna have to cut you." I'm
Oh
like,
wow, that's
"That
bullshit.
was," but it was cool to be there at least.
Yeah.
Being on a set is always fun for me at least. I because I like to study the lighting and stuff like that when they're
Oh, that's the best part of it all to me sometimes when you get
yeah,
when you
oh
see
yeah,
that kind of stuff because like to see the magic happen. But here's the
totally,
thing, like now, so let me get back to my point.
yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
really care for those movies,
yeah.
and then like I didn't watch Bumblebee, but I
Mhm.
watched the last one with Beast Wars.
Oh yeah, yeah,
With
with
Optimus
Primal,
Primal and stuff like that.
yeah,
And I thought that was a damn good movie, and then at the end,
yeah,
they like insinuate a crossover with GI Joe. And my
mhm,
first response was what you said. It's a little too late for this, don't you think? Like, where the
yeah,
fuck was this
yeah,
10, 15 years ago when you
yep,
started launching this property to begin with? Instead of doing that shitty GI, because obviously I think we could all agree the GI Joe movies were dog shit
yeah,
too. They were
horrible.
terrible as well, right? So it's like
Yes.
you want something like, I would love to see what, like, they can do now, but it's like, I think it's just a little too late because like, after the whole superhero craze, you're kinda done with the blockbuster. I think I am,
Yeah.
right? I don't know, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, it's like
No, the damage has been done.
yeah.
Like when you look at like even the new Daredevil show that's on,
Have you seen any of that yet?
yeah, I think I've caught up. I think I've seen every
I
episode
haven't
so
seen
far.
anything yet. I mean, I don't really care if you spoil it. So is it any good? Well,
Oh,
what's,
so I can't say that it's good
okay.
because it's not done yet. I'm
Yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and anybody will be able to come back in 4 weeks or so, or whenever it's done, and say, "Neek, you were wrong. It was great." Um, but I doubt it. I'm pretty sure it's going to suck dick hard, because like it's so slow,
Okay.
and it's it's been like 6 episodes, and it's not until the sixth episode that he gets back in the suit. Like he hasn't been in the suit since the beginning of the first ep.
Yeah.
It's just like I get what they're trying.
Yeah.
They're just failing at what they're trying. And
Oh, shit.
it's so many of the problems with like the Marvel product today, like the from the MCU down to the comics.
Yeah.
is there are too many cooks in the kitchen. There isn't one direct idea that says, here's what we're doing. We're going to go 26 points, A to Z.
Yeah.
An editor or somebody is going to pinpoint all of this, and each of those alphabetical points is going to be given to a writer to flesh out. But it's all got to come back through this one singular voice who
So he knows.
pinholed and pinpointed out all 26 points of this story
Yeah.
so that it all flows together. And they don't do stuff like that. Instead of having a singular voice on a movie, they have a writing team that's got a dozen people. None of them know anything about the character. None of them have read the comic book. And let's just try to make it zany. And, for some reason, Ant-Man has a talking dog or some bullshit like that. Like, you know,
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff I expect now.
I've
And
I've gotten to a point now where with at least with the Marvel stuff, dude, like you you topped off for me. It peaked at Infinity War because
absolutely.
even Endgame kind of was just like, eh.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it was cool, your little ending with everybody coming through the portals and you get the hurrah moment. It was cool,
right.
but
Yeah,
to me, it was just like, man, you ain't hitting at peak level like Infinity.
right.
Infinity War was
Dude,
peak. You couldn't not. You
Thanos,
reached the top, and that was
yeah,
it. So to
yep,
me, anything after that movie, was just like now you're grasping at straws here. Like it's
absolutely.
there's no. It's like for instance, I guess the joke now is I always bring it back to wrestling, but let me bring it back to wrestling real quick.
Sure.
It's like in that Attitude Era, you see them hit the peak in about 2000, 2001 when they buy
Yep,
WCW, and you
yep.
basically think to yourself when you see when I at least when I was watching it, me and my brother
Mhm.
watching it together, and you see Vince on Shane on two TV screens on two fucking
Yeah.
shows at the same time,
Oh, it
and
was
I said to my
nuts.
yeah, and I said to my brother, I said, "This is it.
This
Like
is yeah.
you kissed the mountaintop. Now it's,"
Yep,
and that's
yep.
exactly what happened. It was a slow descent back to reality, and I
Yeah,
think that's what happened with Marvel. Marvel was on this beautiful rise, and
yep,
it peaked with Infinity War. They literally kissed the star, and then all of a
yep.
sudden it just started crashing back down to earth. And now they've crashed into a million pieces, and they can't really kind of. Because listen, I don't read comic books anymore because everybody I ask, "Oh, what's a
Yeah.
good story?" They always I read it's all shit. That's all I hear. It's all
Yeah,
shit. Don't
the
even
old
like
stuff. Yeah,
yeah, just go back and read
don't
go
bother.
reread stuff. Yeah, so
Yep,
it's like, all
yeah.
right, well, I guess so. This new shit, it's like it's because you can't
It's
offend
terrible.
anybody. So you can't say anything. You
Yep,
can't do anything. Everything's got to be in a box. Like you said,
yeah,
100,000 cooks
yep,
standing around one little package, going, "Well, has to be this." And you make sure you hit this. Make sure this. Don't do
yep,
this. Don't buy. It's got this. And then all these people. Next thing you know, it's a fucking mess. Like
yep.
it can't taste the food. It's disgusting. So it's like
It's
I
mad.
feel bad for where we are.
So
What was
like
that?
one of the other big challenges that like the Marvel
Yeah.
movies have is that they don't film from a completed script.
Oh,
So
Jesus.
they will work from what is basically like a choose your own adventure style script where they'll film multiple variations of the same scene multiple times for possibly potentially taking the story in one direction or another
Yeah.
direction, and it's so wasteful. Like you're the amount of people, the amount of crew, the amount of digital effects after you
Yeah.
filmed
That's a lot.
everything. It's like you've got all these people that are working on stuff, and they're literally half-assing it to the
Yeah.
finish line, and then putting it all on these animators to like work 90 hours a day to get all this animation rendered out and put through. It's
You know what the
crazy.
funny thing is about that is I think it's starting to show because a lot of people are complaining that
Mhm.
it's not up to snuff, and I think it's
Yeah,
because they're
totally.
putting too much on these, and they're not either skilled enough or there's not
Hmm.
enough of them to get it exactly how it should look. So they're
Yeah,
skipping steps, or they're just kind of like, "Yo, just we need this out because it's this episode. It's got to be done by X
yeah,
amount of time," and unfortunately, like I said, the work suffers when there's like a
Yeah.
deadline and like you said, incomplete stuff, and you're kind of working around what they need. And you said like a
Hmm.
choose your own adventure shit because there's 100 different ideas. That's another problem with multiverse bullshit. Is it's
Yep.
always like going to be that kind of shit, you know? But
Yeah.
speaking of which,
Hmm.
um, no, they're going to call me Segue at the end of this one. let's, uh, let's get back. Do you collect Marvel Legends? Are you into Marvel Legends?
So I buy a few here and there. I mostly just kind of cherry pick now when it comes to Legends because
Okay.
there there was a period where I was going ham bone and it was like, you know, gotta complete the bath so
Yeah,
you get the whole wave, and whether it was order it online or hunt all the stores in the area,
yeah,
when you start hearing about something hitting. um but I got to a point where, like, once you started to see the patterns where, like, the Legends team would just be like, yeah, we're gonna re-release this bath and then that bath, and then we're gonna put out the Thanos box set with his whole Dark Order, and we're gonna give them all the updated gear and make sure their outfits are accurate, they have the right paint jobs and all this shit, and it's like, fuck you guys. I'm
yeah,
not dropping $150 on your box set when I just bought all these figures for like 20 whatever a pop, and and now you're gonna like put them right back out like perfect. So
yeah.
thanks.
That
The
that
easy.
really upset me. That really upsets
Yeah.
me when they do that shit. Like
Yeah.
like they did that shit with well, like because I'm a big Black Order fan as well. Like I love Thanos and
Hmm.
the Black Order.
Yeah.
And I have the SH figure arts Thanos. And
Hell
I
yeah.
just felt like I was like, man, I want like a good Black Order to go with them. So I hunted them down, dude, because they were
Hmm.
very hard to find, the solo ones.
Yeah. Yep.
And I searched high and low. And the last one I got was what's that fucking Chloris Glaive, right?
Oh,
I
Corvus Glaive. Yeah.
for Corvus Glaive, right? So I get him finally, and then all of a sudden I see that stupid box set get
Yep.
announced, and I'm just like, Are you kidding me?" And then like you have Call Obsidian in your hands, obviously, which is a Black Dwarf, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm, I'm looking at him, and I'm just like, I mean, he looks cool, and then I look at that one, like you said, the perfected version where he's in like his whole
Right.
outfit, and I'm like, this is
Yeah.
bullshit. This is how they entice you, because now I would love to have that version. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
not for $150. Like I'm good.
Yeah.
I have the rest that are literally the same ones. I have
Yeah.
them already. It would literally just be because you want a better Call Obsidian. And I'm just like, fuck you, man. Like I'll just keep the one, the build a figure one. It's like shit
Yep.
like that. Like I think we all get to a point with toys where it's just like I'm not gonna get caught up in the FOMO. Like I'm just not
Yeah.
gonna get
Yeah.
caught up in the sell anymore.
Yep.
You know, like are you like are you like me now, where it's kind of like you're not you're not loyal to one line because you're
Yes.
too busy cherry picking everything because there's so much. Is that where you kind of are with me? Like me?
So, like, I'm a very similar vein like that. Like,
Yeah.
I've gotten to a point where there's so much stuff, and even now, like, so I love Transformers. One here's like a glaring example for me: the Dinobots. I'm staring at my 3 out of the 5 Dinobots that I have. They put out Snarl the beginning of last year. I never got him. I saw him a bunch of times, but every time I looked at him, I was disappointed.
Okay.
Um, so I never got him, and I was okay with it. And I'm still okay with it. I'm actually
Yeah.
completely fine with it.
Yeah.
Then I saw they released Swoop, who's the last one, the flying one. He's the pterodactyl.
Yeah.
See him at GameStop. My immediate reaction is my heart jumped out of my chest because I was excited to actually physically see him in store so that I
Yeah.
could actually examine it and like decide whether it was like, am I really going to plunk down $60 for this transformer when like Grimlock was the first one that came out, and I think when he came out he was still like I think their leader class, because they're the bigger ones.
Okay.
I think they were still under like a $50 price point. but
Okay.
that was also like 5 years ago
Yeah,
when he
yeah.
was first released. So we had all the COVID bullshit, yada yada. I'm looking at this thing, and the plastic just looks so cheap,
Mm,
and I'm I couldn't do it. I I had the cash in my hand, and part of me is like, am I going to regret this? And even after I left the store, I was like, no, I'm good.
yeah,
I don't need to buy it. Like, as much as I'd love to have a complete Dinobot team,
yeah.
I it just doesn't do it, and like
I, I think we all
I don't
have like
know.
I think we all have like a moment of clarity. Like we all
Hmm.
have it, whether it's in a store, like you said, you're about to buy it, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh man, here we go. Or like for me, it was I had so many pre-orders, and I looked
Mm,
at the pre-orders, and I was just like, wait, the fuck, you need these figures? Like, who the fuck are these guys? They were figures
right.
I don't even know. Like, I didn't know who they were, but was watching
Hmm.
like a review, or I was watching a live stream, and somebody put it over, and
Totally.
I ran and pre-ordered it, or I ran to go get it, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, you don't need this shit. Like, what are you doing? And all
Yeah.
of a sudden, I started to realize that, oh, this is what that FOMO, this is what that is, where you have to have because
Right.
everybody is talking about it. And I was just
Yeah.
like, man, you don't need this. And I just literally one by one started canceling pre-orders. And I was just like,
Hmm.
yeah, like you're not gonna get caught up in this shit. Pick what you want, be happy with what you get, and if
Yeah.
you don't get it, you weren't meant to have it, and that's the end of the story.
Yeah. Like, I really try to look at it like, you know, if it's something you really want,
Yeah,
obviously get it, go
yeah,
for it,
yeah,
jump
yeah,
on it. Like that retro card Duke that came out last year. I was so geeked for it
yeah,
because Duke. I have SH Figure Arts Luke Skywalker. I have Duke. One thing I've been like meaning to like photograph and I haven't done it is Duke and Luke inside my 3D printed Optimus Prime, and I need to do
yeah.
that at some point
Yes, you
because
do. One hundred
it's
percent.
yeah, like it's everything right here, and it's what I need to like put out,
Yeah.
onto a screen, IG, Facebook, all over the place.
Well,
Um,
I'm glad you
but
brought
yeah,
that up. I'm glad you brought up what you
mhm.
just brought up, the 3D printed Optimus Prime. 'Cause let's talk a little bit
Oh,
about
for
3D
sure.
printing. Let's talk a little bit about 3D
Oh,
printing. Um,
hell yeah.
when you started collecting, was 3D printing like was it like just a small hobby you were into, or did you get into 3D printing because of toys? Like, how did the genesis of 3D
Yeah.
printing happen?
Oh, so I mean, I'd already, like I mentioned, I've been collecting forever, but like
Yeah.
the aspect of what I could do because I got a resin printer first. That's what
Okay.
I started with,
Yeah.
which is the opposite of what most people do. Most people
Oh yeah.
start with PM and then
Yeah.
go to resin. Um, but at the time, and I was hardcore into Transformers at the time. Like
Okay.
I had stopped buying them for the longest just because um, they got really cheap. They got very hollow.
Oh,
Like
okay.
Hasbro's plastic that they use for the Transformers, it's not really different than what they use on Legends and Joe.
Okay.
Um, but it's created differently because you have all these like flat walls and panels. Like
Yeah.
most arms are like hollow inside, so it's like the bicep tricep area of the underside of a character's arm is going to be like this hollow rectangle area.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like when you look at that and you look at like a Joe or a Legends figure and you compare that, and yeah, granted, this robot has to turn into something else, and that's some of the time that's why it has those gaps and those
Yeah.
spaces is because it's going to occupy other parts or whatever when it's changed. But like about 10 or so years ago, the Transformers stuff started to get to a point where they didn't just have those hollow spots for transformation reasons. It became more of a money saving reason because less plastic is less plastic and they can
Yeah.
charge you more for less plastic and just be like, hey, here's your brand new shiny new figure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, I started to see it then and things were just like repeating. they were putting out waves of figures that were essentially repaints of either the previous wave or the previous couple waves and maybe like one new figure, but the other figures were all just recolors of other stuff.
Yeah.
And it was all on the same engineering. So like when it comes to a transformer, if you have like it's one thing outside of like the seekers, like if you have like, you know, your Decepticon jets who are all like twins, they're just different colors. You know, and there's some of the Autobot cars that are the same way. That's one thing. But when you have like main characters like Ironhide and he shares the same body type with like Trailbreaker or somebody else, it's like
Mhm.
it starts to get weird because you're breaking down, you know, the individual character into something that just fits your shoehorn basis for this line.
Yeah.
And like that's one of those things that kills me about Hasbro today is they don't have creative people in charge of stuff. They have marketers. So they have guys that want to sell you, they want to sell you that spoon or that pen. They don't give a shit about your cares, but they want to make sure you buy it, you know? And like that to me, that's what hurts it because the stuff we grew up on, you know, and I know I'm just a scotch older than you, but like,
Yeah.
you know, the stuff we grew up on, it was done by people with passion. It was done by people that cared, that really put their entire creative self into these concepts and these characters. And look at Larry Hama still going strong with Joe.
That's a
Um,
fact. Is that
yeah,
what led you to is that what led you to 3D printing because this shit was becoming cheap or looking cheap, so you were trying to
it
like
was
fix things?
it was part of that, like part of the
Uh,
fact that like you could print upgrade kits that would basically fill in those gaps and stuff like
yeah.
that, which that was actually if you scroll through my IG, however many years back, that you'll see it because like I think I made a post where you know it was something like, "Sorry, I haven't been posting much lately. I just got a resin printer and I've been learning 3D printing." And then there, it's just like a bombardment of transformer parts and heads and different face sculpts and head sculpts and weapons and just all kinds of silly shit like that. And like
Was this all to fix Hasbro figures?
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like 99.9% fixing Hasbro's. And then I think after a while, I'd started to get really bored with Legends. I was buying less and less and less of them. Like the MCU stuff just kind of got to a point where it was like, I'm done. After
Yeah.
like Infinity War and all of that and Endgame, it was like, I don't need like I think I still have like a dozen different Chris Evans Captain America figures, like from however many different packs and sets and whatever and
Yeah.
stuff. And it's just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I don't need to be in that spot, you know?
Yeah.
I don't need, you know, three different movie Iron Man figures that are soapy plastic that, you know, just suck. Like, but you know, but give me like a Mafex, give me a bootleg Mafex, a CT Toys. I am
That's a big one everybody
down
likes
it.
now, CT.
Oh man, like so I'll say this. The thing about CT Toys is the thing about Mafex. When I know you had that experience with your Superman,
I literally
and
have him
there's
over here because I have to fix him. I'm so mad, bud. I figured out what it was. It wasn't the elbow. The elbow was fine. It's
Mhm.
the it's the bicep swivel. It just
Okay.
kinda it just does
So
this.
here's the thing about it. It's a post, like the bicep itself goes
Yeah.
around like there's like a post that goes through the center of it.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
post then plugs into like the actual shoulder ball.
Okay.
So what you might want to try doing is wiggling from the elbow up and see if that can lock into place because that might be why it's so loose on you is that it's not pushed all the way in.
I'm gonna give that
Um,
a shot. I'll give that a shot. Because,
yeah,
dude, it's
it
like I mean, it literally it just does this. Like,
spins
it's so, upsetting because it's a really nice Superman figure. Like,
totally.
it's a
Yeah,
beautiful figure, man, and as if that gets
absolutely.
fixed, I love that figure, I'll display it. That'll be my prominent Superman figure, but
Hell
Man,
yeah.
is that killer for me, dude. So
Totally.
hold on.
Yeah.
You built a giant Optimus Prime. So I'm gonna
Yes,
keep you
sir.
on track here. So you started printing small parts to fill in, to fix,
Yep.
upgrade kits, but mostly Hasbro. Um, what was the thought of I want a 112 scale? I want to start printing 112 scale, whether it was vehicles, Optimus Prime. Like, what was like? I
So
want bigger, and I want things to kind of match. Like, I know we all have that thing where we
yeah,
want everything to kind of like play with each other.
yeah,
Did
yeah,
you have
yeah.
that? Was that for you? Like, what kind of brought you
Oh,
to like I'm gonna print on a bigger scale from the small upgrade kits?
so my my resin printer was the Elegoo Mar is the Elegoo Mars. I don't have it set up, but I still own it. I still have it.
Okay, yeah, that was the one
Um,
I had.
yeah, the Elegoo Mars Pro, and
Yeah,
the build plate on that is basically like the size of the screen of your cell phone.
yeah, yeah.
So you're really limited on the size of things you can do. Yeah, so it's like that was one of the things like I loved about resin is that you could print head sculpts
Mhm.
and you get just beautiful detail and as long as your settings and you're printing right, you can do some really awesome stuff like that. Like, even head sculpts for like Marvel Legends. There was even a while where I actually worked on and made a few head sculpts of my own, which those are on my IG too. If you scroll back, there is a for some McFarlane figures because I
Mm.
went through a McFarlane stage
Oh,
and
jeez, but
I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of it. It just I have to be honest about it. I went through it. I still have them. I need to sell them. If there's anyone out there that wants some McFarlane's, I'd be
I
happy
just
to.
did the same thing. I just cleaned out my bins and I filled a
Yeah.
giant shopping bag to the top of McFarlane figures, and I
Woo.
literally said to my wife, I said, I'm gonna do something where I'm gonna do like a grab bag, and like
Yeah.
just put online like a mystery bag of just filled with DC Multiverse, Marvel Legends, and I think I had some like miscellaneous figures because like
Mhm.
there's so many like just like you said, like how many Chris Evans Captain Americas do you need?
Right.
And like I was like when I was going through my Marvel Legends, same thing. Marvel Universe, cinematic, get the fuck out of here. I don't want they were just going in this bag. I'm like, I'm just gonna give them most I don't give a fuck about them. I kept from Marvel Universe, from I mean Marvel Universe, from the MCU, I
Hmm.
kept Korg because I could use him for like swords and sorcery figures. He's a rock
Yeah,
guy.
man. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
and I kept the Knight from Thor 3. Uh, uh,
You fucking cunts. What's his
that
name?
guy. Yeah, that
Yeah,
guy. Exactly that
Tyler.
guy. Yeah, him. Because he's a knight and he plays with a bunch of like swords and sorcery figures. The only reason I kept him. The
Yeah,
rest of the MCU figures went in that bag, and it's like somebody else can have fun with them. I could not give a tiny rat's ass about the MCU figures, man. Like
yeah.
I don't even know how I had amassed such a collection. Like I couldn't believe how many I had. I was like, how the fuck did I get all these MCU figures? I couldn't wrap my head around it. I don't have
My,
any like I don't have anything like worth it. I think the only Captain America I had was like the reprint of
the Worthy Cat.
of it. Yeah, I think that one. Yeah, but he didn't
Yeah.
come with he didn't come with the hammer. He
Oh,
just
I got you. The one that
so I
it was
think it
the
was like
same body.
it was one of those one packs where it was just him, but it had like
Gotcha.
this Infinity Saga shit. I think it
Yeah,
was that.
yeah.
But yeah, man. So like, what led you to 3D printing the big guys then? So what was it, man?
It was basically wanting to be able to do like vehicles, to be able to do like diorama
Okay,
pieces and stuff like that.
okay,
And like it was um it took me a while because like I did, like I said, I'd printed out like the McFarlane heads and stuff like
yeah,
that
yeah,
and had made some head sculpts with a couple other 3D artist buddies. One of them was like a Hush style Batman,
yeah.
which I will say, without ego, better than what McFarlane put out. And
Hell yeah.
and and I'm not kidding. like you can go back, scroll through my shit, and you'll
Yeah.
see it there. Like it honestly, it's a much better head sculpt than what they put out. However, you know, Todd lets his factory do too much of his tooling and stuff, and I think
Okay.
that's a big part of why so much of his figures just they're just so bad. You know,
Yeah.
the articulation's horrible. When
Well, there's
you,
a reason why I
you
lost the thing.
I mean, it's got to play a part, you know, that
Yeah.
and the way, you know, he ships out all those platinums and stuff, and all these stores are stuck with figures that, you know, even on clearance, nobody wants to buy. It's, you know, what are you doing?
I've never seen a line clearanced more than McFarlane.
Yeah,
Like I've never
yeah.
seen it clearanced more in stores than McFarlane. Like there's so many toys too, but I always see his. His is
Mhm.
always clearance the most and the quickest too. Like the fastest. They
Yeah,
always fastest to clearance. I
they
mean, listen,
burn through.
yeah, and but like you said, no one cares. Still, no one buys.
Yep. Yeah, you know,
That's
it's like there are hardcore dedicated fans out there that, you know, hey, God bless you guys, but
yeah,
you know, those are the only ones that I really see behind them, and
yeah.
they're a very select group of people, and I don't know if they're gonna carry over to the Mattel stuff or not, but I'm excited to see what Mattel does. I'm hoping that it's closer to more of their WWE stuff than, you know, the
I think it will.
Masterverse.
I think it will be. I think it will
Yeah,
be because
the guy running it is the
yeah,
guy that runs the WWE thing. So, you
yeah,
know,
and you got to have it
we
scaled
should be,
correctly. So certain people got
yeah,
to be certain sizes. So I think they'll do right by it. I hope butterfly joints are a standard going in every figure.
dude,
Um,
me too,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
Articulation is such an important thing. Like,
for real.
I, it's what absolutely kills me about Todd stuff. Like, because I've bought a couple of like his '89 Batmobile.
Yeah,
You know, I got the first one, which, you know, I was glad I got it, and I love it. I still love it, even though it's just a cheap play school
yeah,
kind
it
of
really is.
car. It's not, yeah, it's just hollow. It's
Yeah,
this big hollow thing that I think a lot of us vastly, I mean, even paying retail for it, we all overpaid for it.
I
Like
agree.
that thing should not have been as expensive as it was.
I
Yeah.
agree 100%.
Um,
So let
but
me ask you
like,
this. Let me ask you this. Hold on. Let me
yeah,
get you because we keep getting away
sorry,
from
I
the figure.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we go all over the place.
you decide I want vehicles because you're a
Yeah,
photographer. Now I've seen some of your photography. It's very good.
yeah.
Um,
Thanks, man.
so now what came first? You were a photographer first and was like, yo, I need to start adding pieces like vehicles, or were
Mm-hmm.
you getting into 3D printing? Me like, yo, man, I can maybe start taking pictures of this stuff and maybe display
So,
it. What came first?
um, so the photography was definitely going before the 3D printing.
Okay.
Another thing you know, you probably don't know this about me, but at a young age, well, you definitely don't know this about me.
Yeah.
At at the age of 14, I started working in independent comics.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was working for a local independent comic book company and basically learning the ropes, learning production and stuff like that.
Right on.
And by the time like 6 months through that year had gone up, I'd already amassed such a knowledge of how to produce comic books, all the way down to like filing copyrights,
Yeah.
that I decided to start making my own comic books.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I made my own indie comics from 14 through 26, 27-ish, but well, about 26 because I just finished school and I was working. I'd gone to school for animation and film.
Okay.
So like I had the background and the knowledge, but
Yeah.
prior to prior to going to school for this stuff, I'd worked on one kind of big deal movie, and then that kind of like spitballed me into like finding the local indie scene,
Yeah.
and then working on a bunch of smaller films, and then going to school for animation and film. And also in there was wrestling school, and you
Oh, yeah.
know, going through that whole journey, and
We'll
holy
get to that a
fuck,
little later.
Carney
Yeah, we'll get to
world.
that a little later. We'll definitely
Yeah.
get to that
Okay.
So now, while you're going through this movie business thing, is that what spurns the photography as a hobby, or is it something that you got
So,
into?
no, actually, the wild thing about the movie stuff was, like I mentioned earlier, about how, like, when you're on a set and you see like the lighting rig set up, and
Yeah,
um, and you're studying how, or at least I was studying how lights are being set up in order to get what they need for the camera on the set, and it's like,
yeah.
um, so I worked on this movie uh, called Out of Sight,
Okay.
with like George Clooney and Jennifer
Yeah, I remember that.
Lopez.
I remember that movie. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so like my first day on the set, we're shooting in this gymnasium of the Kronk boxing gym in Detroit, and they had like this giant scaffolding unit outside of those like cement block windows, like,
Uh,
you know what I'm talking about, that are
Yeah.
like half a foot thick, that are just
Yeah.
huge and you can't really see through them.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're setting up like these stadium lights outside of those in order to get the lighting inside to light the shot the way Steven Soderbergh wants the shot lit.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, it took them hours just to get that. Like, we're on set, and I think making something like $28 an hour to literally be standing around. There's J Lo over there, and she's like surrounded by her people. Clooney's off playing ping pong because he likes to keep his heart rate up in between filming. So it's like there's all this overstimulation going on, and
Yeah.
then on the set comes Diddy with a giant waft of weed from him and his whole crew. And I was a young boy at the time. I was a good boy at the time. I didn't smoke weed. I didn't
Yeah.
even really drink. Um, so like I was overstimulated, turned off, grossed out, and excited all at the same time. Like it was a really bizarre experience, but like learned so much about storytelling and visual storytelling, sequential storytelling, like,
Yeah.
because from comic books to animation to professional wrestling to movies, it's all sequential storytelling.
Facts. Yeah.
Everything starts from one point, it goes to the next until you get to your finish. So
Yeah.
whether you're in a live audience and you're trying to make them all come, or you're in a movie theater and you're trying to make everybody in that theater bust a nut, or you're, flipping the pages of the comic book and you want your audience to lose their shit.
Oh
It's
yeah.
all the same.
It
And
is.
and so like studying all of that stuff kind of brought me to like thinking outside of like traditional means. So like
Mm.
I went from comic book art to, you know, wrestling, then art school, or I'm sorry, wrestling, movie, then art school. So it's like I had all these different perspectives of different types of storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to try to like kind of like put it all together into like some understanding of, you have vastly different types of storytelling, but there are similarities that run through all of it. Like, and
Yeah.
you can do like the crazy Charlie Day meme, gif where you've got like the the string and the board and all that.
Yeah.
Um, but it's the similarities are there. I had a conversation with George Clooney on the set of
Mhm.
Out of Sight about specifically about professional wrestling.
Oh wow.
And
Really?
yeah, and this was way before. Do you remember when it was Raw? It was when they were doing like those promotions where they would have like Hollywood people come out and they were
Oh, I
either
do it
like
all
guest
the
PM. Yeah. So
time.
like they promote whatever movie it was. Like Jeremy Piven came out and called SummerSlam Summerfest and all that shit.
Yeah.
So this is way before that, because that movie, I think we were filming in 97, 98.
Yeah, that's an old
Um,
movie.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. So like, um, I'm talking to George about it, and I bring up to him, I'm like, what are your thoughts on professional wrestling? And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, have you ever considered it an art form? Like, or do you just, you know, do you not really
Scoff
think of
at it.
it?
A lot of guys, a lot of people scoff at it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And he's like, well, I don't know. I've never really thought of professional wrestling as an art form. And I said,
Yeah.
okay, well, let me give you a little shape to this story.
Hmm.
Um, what's the best part of acting? And he's like, being in front of a live audience. Gotcha.
Hmm.
Do you know what the best part of professional wrestling is? Being in front of a live audience. Because you get what you get as an actor from a live stage, that adrenaline, that energy, that electricity that shoots through you, all of that. It's the same thing for any kind of stage performer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I put it into that perspective to him, that it's that as professional wrestling storytellers, you're playing these pantomime heroes and villains. You are an archetype of good or evil, and you're presenting these ideas, but it's a dance. This is performance art, and it's in
Yeah.
front of a live audience.
Yeah.
So like my selling point to him was, imagine acting, except it's a physical dance. And you know yeah, maybe you'll have some lines, but
Yeah.
really you're going to do some talking with your body. And he was just kind of blown away by that perspective, because it's wrestling.
When you break wrestling down philosophically to people, or you break it down like in metaphors and things like that, they tend to go, "Really?" Like, yeah, well, yeah. You don't look at it from that perspective. You look at it from the silly tights and crazy gimmicks. Like you see
Hmm.
Macho Man saying snap into a Slim Jim wearing nothing but
Yeah,
crazy fringe, and you just think, "Oh, that's pro wrestling." It's just ridiculous, but it's not. It
yeah,
there's a Everything has an art form to it. You just gotta study the art form.
absolutely.
But if you like, but here's the thing: like with anything, like listen, I don't listen to certain types of music. It sounds like noise to me. But other people,
Yep,
it's like their lifeblood. Like it's what makes
totally.
them feel how they feel and shit like that. But here's the thing, buddy. You didn't answer my question about
Oh,
photography.
sorry.
What got
Yeah,
you into
my bad.
photography?
So what actually happened with that got me to photography was, I was in a car accident, and
Ah, okay.
I like, after everything else, all the other previous injuries, wrestling related, non-wrestling related,
All right.
I was rear-ended in a car accident,
Oh
and
shit.
had a pinched nerve in my back,
Oh,
and made it incredibly difficult to be able to sit and draw for long periods of time.
yeah.
And like, when you go from, you know, you go to school for animation, you're going to be drawing 14, 15 hours a day.
Yeah.
Um, so when you go from being able to do that, and then all of a sudden, you're lucky if you can stay seated and drawing for like
Yeah.
40, 45 minutes, you're, you're looking for any kind of creative outlet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to say it was kind of around Infinity War time
Okay.
that, like, yeah, right around then, maybe a little before that, but like, it started off with like some Star Wars figures, and then, then some Transformers, and then, the MCU stuff was blowing up, and I had I had like connections to it, but I didn't really push or pursue any of those, because
Yeah.
I ended up working for Steven Soderbergh a bit more. Well, Steven Soderbergh was the one that, like, I discovered the Russo brothers,
Yeah.
and it's like, in kind of a small facetious way, the MCU wouldn't have happened without me. And it's silly as hell, but like, when you think about stuff like that, like, it's wild, man. People and crazy shit, how life happens, and connections and all that stuff. But um
So then the
so yeah,
photography leads to the 3D printing. So
yes,
now you
yeah,
start
yeah.
printing. Okay, so You've printed now. What have you printed so far in terms of 1/12 scale? Give me a list.
Oof. So, um, right in front of me, I can see a couple of Cobra Claws,
Okay.
the Dreadnoks Thunder Machine,
Hell yeah.
the oh well here. It's no fun for me to just be talking about what I see, right? I should
Hell
probably show, not just tell. But
yeah.
I know it's a bit dark in here, so it's
Dude, that's so
kind of tough to
badass, though,
see.
man.
I love this thing so much. Like
Hell yeah.
honestly, right next to the Optimus Prime truck, this is probably my favorite thing I've printed so far.
That thing
It
looks
just,
badass, dude.
dude, it's so much fun and it's huge. Like, um, it's actually, I mean, it's big. It's a little bigger than like the Vamp or the Stinger.
Okay.
Um, like maybe just a couple inches longer, but it's so much cooler. Like
Hell,
it's just
hell yeah.
not even, you know.
Let me
And
ask you this question. Let me ask you this
yeah,
question.
sure.
What is what do you think is worse? Does it put a lot of stress on the 3D printer to print something of that scale, or is it fine for the 3D? Because that's always what worries me about 3D printing is, am I going to put too much stress on this machine trying to print something of that size?
So, um, the machine that I have is big enough that like I can print most of this stuff out. Um, if not like exactly as it's made,
Okay.
I can like kind of sort of like chop it and then
Okay.
glue it together after both parts are done.
Yeah.
Which I had to do. I had to do a little of that on Optimus.
Okay. So now,
Um,
when you do that, do
mhm,
you have to give the printer time to, like, let's say you printed one giant piece, and you have to
mhm.
do it in pieces, like you said. Do
Yeah.
you give the printer some time to kind of cool down and chill,
Oh
or is it
no,
just
no,
right
no,
back to work? You just
no.
keep
Right
going.
back to work. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
When it's dialed in, like when you have your settings like right where you want them,
Yeah.
full bore. You just put the pedal to the metal and go. So
Okay.
it's like one piece prints. Once it's done, pull that baby off the off the plate.
Yeah.
If you already have it loaded on your file card, just go on to the next.
On the next one.
Um,
Have
the
you
cool
had
thing,
any massive mishaps? I've seen that happen with my buddy's 3D printer.
so no, thankfully, no, not yet.
Okay.
They say it's inevitable that
Yeah.
everybody does, you know.
Yeah.
Hopefully not, but I thankfully I never had any of the major problems with my resin printer either.
Okay.
I know a lot of people who have like torn the FEP and they're in their vat, and like when that tears, then you get all your resin, and that ends up like basically glued to like your screen, and then you have
Yeah.
to order a whole new screen.
Yeah.
And the thing that sucks about now, especially with like that old resin printer, they don't make new screens for that resin printer anymore. Like Elgu
Yeah.
has like moved forward. They're on like I think the Mars 5 now or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So
Way
it's
ahead of us.
like when you take into account you're four generations behind the most recent, technology.
Dude,
You're not
dude,
that good.
that's what led me to giving mine away.
Yeah.
Was I was worried about a mishap like what you just said, that
Mm-hmm.
that bottom thing rips and I have fucking resin everywhere
Resin
all
core.
over that thing, and I was just like, I don't want like a mistake like that of that magnitude. So
Yeah.
I would rather just step away from it and leave it to somebody who is willing to take on that kind of responsibility. I didn't want to be I didn't want it to be a $300 mistake
For
or a
sure.
$300 lesson. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I
Yeah.
gave it away, is because I didn't give it the proper. Like you said, most people start with filament
Yep.
and then they graduate to resin, and
Yep.
like I wanted to learn things hard way, so I go the resin first. Then I was going to do the other one, but now I'm to a point where it's like I'd rather ask somebody to do it,
Sure. Yeah.
over
Absolutely.
trying to learn a whole nother skill, like, 'cause that's a fucking skill. Like you just
Yeah.
said, you have it dialed in where you
Yeah.
can literally just go boop boop, and it'll just print the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
Yep.
Whereas I'm always worried, like if I could tell you how many times the plate dropped into the resin and
Oh
was either
man.
off or uneven, and you heard that dumb noise, like, "Brr, brr, brr, brr," and I got
Uh-huh. Oh boy.
Yeah, and I got to raise it all the way up and fix it and
Yep.
clean everything. It's just a mess every fucking time you fuck up.
And it's frightening, man. That's
Yeah,
so scary. I was I you just reminded me of the first time I heard that.
yeah,
Um, I was I want to say I was about to start a print and I was really excited. I don't remember what it was, but I was so excited, whatever the fuck it was. I was just so geeked. It was like, yeah, I'm going to get this printed. I'm going to have whatever this is in like 4 or 5 hours. This is going to
yeah,
be mine now, And I don't think I had like secured the plate on properly, like pushed
uh,
it all the way back on the block.
yeah.
So when it came down to the vat, it basically came down on one of the corners and it
Oh,
started
jeez.
making this like loud grounding
Scrape.
grinding like noise, and I was just like, oh my god. I hit the off button right away because I freaked the fuck out and didn't know what to
Yeah,
do. And when I turned it back on, it it elevated, it went back up, and I was just like, oh my god, did I just kill my printer? I'm freaking the fuck out. What if
yeah,
I shattered the screen? What if the vat? So like that you go through it all, you end up having to take the vat off, drain it, put all that resin
yeah.
away, make sure the vat's clean, and then once you see it is, you feel like the biggest fucking tool because it was such a simple mistake, but it's a
Hmm.
mistake that could cost you your entire machine,
I know.
and
That was
that's the
that was my biggest fear, dude. Was just like
mhm,
one mistake could be catastrophic.
yep,
And like I like you like, and I kept telling myself like, bud, you didn't learn this enough to kind of brazenly just think you can just print things like that. We're like, oh, I'll just get this file and print it. Like, you need to learn this to know like how it needs to be level and everything like that.
yeah,
Because if I could tell you how many times I heard that noise, how many times I had to dump that resin and clean
oh
it,
man, yeah,
it got to a point where it was just like to me. I said I felt like I owned a boat. Where my
hmm,
favorite day was when I got it, and then my next favorite day was when I sent it away. Bye, let somebody else deal with it, because it was every
yeah,
time I fucked with it, it failed more than it was
yeah,
successful. So I was just like, the ratio, it spoke for itself. So the ratio
mhm.
told me, it's like, this ain't for you. You'll just
and
egg
and
somebody for shit.
that's one of those things too with resin. It's dangerous, man. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
one of those things that we don't even know the full like because this type of resin hasn't existed long enough in the way that it's being used right now for us to know the long-term effects of how it
shit.
will affect people's health.
Yeah,
Because resin does affect your health. Like you have to wear gloves. You cannot
yeah,
handle anything with wet resin with your bare skin because if you do, you will get resin poisoning. Um,
no,
some people it can be like I one of my best friends in the whole world. Um, I've known him since we were teenagers. Uh, he was actually the one that nudged me into to resin printing.
okay,
He is an absolute wizard. This guy, he's so talented. He works for the government. Like, like he's so talented. This guy's professional job is designing blast radiuses for missiles and stuff like that. And he
wow,
does toys for funsies. Like,
yeah,
and like that's my best friend. Like
yeah,
he was the one that kind of like pushed me into this stuff and
yeah,
he loves making print and does all kinds of stuff, creates his own stuff all the time. Um, he now has a resin allergy, so
oh shit,
he has to be really like crazy careful, mask, goggles,
yeah,
even because like even like the chemicals just being in the air around stuff like your eyeballs
yeah,
for someone who has like now the resin allergies, he can be affected by it so easily. Let alone if he gets some on his skin, it can
yeah,
actually eat your skin. So it's
oh,
like,
fuck, yeah, it's
yeah,
crazy.
it's frightening, man. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
so here, this would be my thing as far as people that are, you know, as far as resin stuff goes. Find someone that resin prints, and I know you've got a few people. I know there's Loki and a few other cats out there that do resin printing that you can get good stuff from for a
Yeah.
great price. Um, if you want to get into printing, I would 100% recommend FDM because of the safety
Yeah.
versus the risk with resin.
Resin. Yeah,
Um,
I think I'm done with resin. It's just too
yeah,
much. There's too much on the negative side.
for sure.
You know, so to me, it's just like if I got back into 3D printing, it would be that, like what you said, the filament.
Yeah,
Because here's the
yeah.
thing, man. Like my brother, he hit me up a couple weeks ago, and he said, "Oh my," he goes, "My son is we're getting him a 3D printer. His son is 9. Okay,
Oh shit.
yeah." And I looked at my brother and I said, You're what?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm getting, yeah." He goes, "I'm getting, I'm getting Sonny a 3D printer." And
That's
I was like,
awesome.
"Yeah." I said, "Okay." He goes, "I need you to buy him the filament, the shit that goes inside of it." So they sent me a link, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"He's into 3D printing at 9?" And he goes, "Yeah, he's his school, they do it, and they taught
Yeah,
him how to use it, and now he wants one, so we're gonna get him one." So I said to my brother, I was like, "Well, he better start printing me shit because I'm gonna need shit. So if he's gonna learn
yeah.
this, please
Hell
print
yeah.
shit for me." And Pat goes, "I'm sure he would." So I was like, "All right, yeah." So I bought him the filament, but like, it's crazy to me that when these things first came out, they were like 4, 5,000, $6,000,
Yeah,
and you
dude.
had to really like you had your videos, you had to really learn. And now my 9-year-old nephew is getting one for like whatever how much you're paying, and
Yep.
he knows more than I would ever know on how to use these
Yeah.
goddamn things. It's just
It's
crazy in the
it
small
is
amount of time that these things burst onto the retail scene, how quickly
mhm,
they've evolved, how quickly they become affordable, and
totally.
how quickly they become user friendly. That
Yeah.
a 9-year-old can figure it out. That's impressive. I mean, that's
it's
impressive, man.
it's really crazy because like you're as far as like we go as collectors and 3D printing, you literally open your collection to whatever possibilities you
Yeah.
can find files for
Hmm.
or wherever your imagination will take you.
Oh yeah.
So if you want to go to the lengths of learning how to create the files, if you want to learn 3D modeling, bro, there's so many free avenues out there that
Oh yeah.
anybody really can learn this stuff without going to art school. And listen to the guy who paid 20 grand a year to go to art school, who's telling you, don't pay 20 grand a year to go to art
Yeah.
school.
Oh, yeah,
The
I went to
shit's all
film
over the
school as well.
internet. Yeah,
Yeah, I went to
yeah.
film
So yeah,
school, and I
exactly.
found out the same thing. I actually yelled at my teachers. I said, "I
Mhm.
watched this video that you told me to watch." Like, it was a part of the week's lessons.
Curriculum. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hit him up, and I was like, "Hey, man," I was like, "I watched this. Like, you mean to tell me that this is what you ex people to do for your class? Like, I watched this shit already. Like,
Yeah.
this is what you're teaching. This is how you teach. Go watch this guy." Like, I was like, "Are you?" I mean, I was one of the. I was like, "This is a racket. You should be wearing a mask and a gun. Like, you
Yep.
robbed me blind. You told me to
Yep.
sign up for this shit, and this is what I'm getting. Fucking crazy, man. The schools are a
It's
racket.
mad.
They're
Dude, and
fucking crazy.
especially when it comes to creative art schools, whether
Oh
it's
yeah,
film, animation,
yeah.
illustration, all of it. My school, the College for Creative Studies in Detroit, I was a we were the Peacocks. Um, they they would literally hire students as they were graduating from the school
Oh wow,
to
yeah.
come back the next year and teach the classes that they just took.
Jesus Christ, that's crazy. That's the
What
blind
the
leading blind.
fuck? Exactly. What
Yeah,
kind of education can you get from a professional that isn't a real professional, that doesn't have any kind of professional experience, a resume, anything? What are you going to learn? And
yeah,
the thing about art schools, you're going to do most of your learning from your fellow students. Your other creative minds are going to challenge your thought processes, or at least in theory, that should be how it is. Your
Yeah,
teachers really aren't supposed to be there to do much except maybe stir shit up every now and again. But for the most part, it should be the other young artists stretching each other's brains out a bit.
yeah,
And in a situation like that, where it is literally the blind leading the blind,
yeah.
you've got nothing. You know, it's like, what possible hope do any of those kids have
Yeah.
for whatever
I,
it
I'll
is they're
say,
supposed to learn?
I'll tell you this. I wish my school would have offered me a job. I would have became a teacher. Fuck.
Right?
Like
I would have taken it too,
I would have taken
man.
that job in a heartbeat. Jesus Christ, dude.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this question because I ask it of all my guests, and I'm assuming I
Yeah.
know the answer.
Uh-huh.
Given the fact that you've been collecting for the last 40 years, you didn't stop like everybody else did.
Yeah.
Do you see a shelf life on the collecting days, or are you collecting until the end, bud?
I mean, so part of me feels like I'm I'm already in slow motion. Like,
Yeah,
it's not that I'm not collecting or not caring or not still loving the stuff, because I do. I still love the shit out of all my figures.
yeah,
I know my lighting setup has got it kind of dark in here, but I am literally surrounded by figures and
yeah,
vehicles and dioramas and all my photography stuff.
yeah.
I've like this I don't know how well it comes across. It probably just looks like a black piece of board, but
Well,
this
you
is
can see the
actually
lines on it. Is that a floor?
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is like a floorboard I made, like, actually around when the first release of the Infinity War Thanos, the SHF, came out,
yeah.
because I was like, I want to create like a Titan set so that
Mm,
I can like shoot all these battles and like try to recreate like the stuff from that movie.
yeah,
Um, and I was rushing to do it because like Hobby Link Japan shipped my Thanos, and I was so excited Thanos was coming, and like it was like DHL, and so I knew it was going to be like 2 days away. So
yeah,
like I busted my ass to kind of like go through that, and I made like smaller like rock fragments from like the front portion of it with like
yeah.
just a little bit of hot glue and some paint on top too, and um, you
Nice
know,
stuff.
it I, I love making stuff. Yeah. Oh man, and especially out of foam, like you can do so many cool things, and I think like that's one of those things where like the making stuff aspect of it, that's what still hooks me.
Me
You
too.
know,
Yeah,
like I'm less inclined to buy a Hasbro vehicle than I am to print one that I can make myself,
nice stuff. Yeah,
because there's going to be way more. So like the Thunder Machine, for example,
yeah.
I want to say that was like 60 some, no, maybe not 60. It might have been around 50 or so parts,
Okay.
and each part prints individually.
Yeah,
So for that one in particular, you know, the entire body of that car is built up from, you know, tiny pieces that are, you know, a few inches long, and then you got to glue it all together, and then
yeah.
you
I'm a
glue the other
puzzle.
parts on top. And exactly, it's like Tetris.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it. I fucking love it so much. Like that to me is where the joy is, because you're, you know, you can of course order from Hasbro Pulse. You
Yeah,
know, you can get all the snakes, all the vamps, all the trouble bubbles, and I'm not crapping on anybody that does. Go for it. If that's your wheelhouse and that's what you want, and you got the money for it, by all means, touchdown, jump on it.
yeah, yeah,
Me personally, though, if I can print it, I'd much rather print it
yeah.
than to give Hasbro money for more vehicles. Because one of the other things that bugs me, and I don't have a lot of like the classified vehicles, but they're all a little small.
Yeah,
Like,
they're not like I don't think proper.
yeah,
Yeah,
you know, so like they have like a toy scaling thing going on with all of
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And that bugs me a little bit, because I feel like a lot of the vehicles are smaller than they need to be, and like they could be, I don't know, a bit more accommodating to, larger figures and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah, yeah, I
you
agree.
know, you take like a Sergeant Slaughter or a Roadblock and try to put him on one of those Joe bikes, and it's like, ooh,
He
looks
looks so
terrible.
silly. Yeah, he looks so silly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like
I have all of them. I won't lie to
mhm,
you.
yeah,
Um, but like, here was the thing. Last year, I think somebody, I don't know who said it, but they were like, "There's no way we're going to get vehicles like that." And I said, "I don't know. I think, and like I said, this was like 2 years ago, or like going into 2024. I said, I think this is going to be the year of vehicles. They're going to hit us with vehicles, and they hit us with vehicles. And the one
yeah,
thing I noticed, and this was another thing that kind of knocked me out of my stupor, was
mhm,
just like, it's cool to have all this stuff, but two
yeah,
things: they ain't making these things built to last. So like you're spending $400, whatever the fuck it is, 350, 299, whatever it is,
yep,
and this thing falls. This thing, I mean, you're trying to hook like you're a photographer, so you're always trying to get things in position, whether it's somebody
yeah,
coming out of the vehicle, going into the vehicle, whatever it
yep,
is. And that thing breaks. They don't have replacements, and if they do, it
yep,
takes forever to get there. Sometimes like, well, we don't make that no more. Like you like to me, it's just like they're cool to have, but at least
yeah,
if you 3D print it and something breaks, you can always just reprint it. That's where it's like to me where it makes more sense to like why you
absolutely,
would be like if I want it, I would just 3D print it because at least like oh fuck the wheel broke real quick, I'll just print another one. Like it's just
yeah.
shit like that where you don't kind of get that level of security or that level of like of mental security. That's cool,
So
man. That's cool, right?
yeah, the Cobra Claw, exactly in that same vein. It's like I don't know what Hasbro's going to charge for theirs yet because
Yeah,
they're still honey dicking us with the pictures and all that bullshit.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I can tell you this much: I this is a Mark II design file,
yeah.
and he's the same one that created the Optimus Prime truck.
Okay.
He does work for Bobby Valla. He does work
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Operation Monster Force. All those indie lines.
Hell yeah.
Um, I would much rather, and I'm much more thankful that I can pay for the files from Mark,
Yeah.
get these files, print it myself, and have a fleet of Cobra Claws. Like I have four right now. Um,
Yes, the possibilities are endless, which you can print as many as you want.
Absolutely. And this
Yeah.
thing, I can probably print a complete one in a day, maybe a day and a half tops. So it's
Wow,
like,
that's good.
yeah, I could do so many of these if I wanted to,
If you
or
needed to, yeah,
am inclined to. Yeah, any time. Stuff like that is one of the coolest parts. But like the vehicles are just they're so much cooler than anything you're going to get from Hasbro, because on
yeah,
top of the fact that you have all these independent artists creating the files, you
yeah.
have you know the fact that you can do it at any point in time,
You do
and it's
yourself.
like, yeah, yeah, and it's like part of me wants to do another Thunder Machine and like, do like color variations. And
Yeah. Oh yeah.
um, after I finished the Prime truck, I was originally thinking about doing another one in like green and purple and doing that just for the dreadnoughts. And
Yeah, you say
yeah, so like stuff like that, and it's
oh,
like,
yeah.
and then you start.
Let's
Oh,
briefly
sorry.
talk about this before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
You brought up that you trained in wrestling. Where do you how long were you in the wrestling game?
Not too long because I got injured about
Okay.
2 years in.
Okay.
But I trained at Destroyers with
Okay.
the legendary Canadian destroyer Doug Le Chavelier. Jesus, I always trip over his last name. My entire life, I've tripped over Doug's last name.
Were
For
you
fuck's sake.
what kind of move set did you have? What
So this was '96, right out of high school. Myself,
yeah.
my brother, a small group of friends. We all went to
Right.
Doug, and we did do the whole training thing. And
Yeah.
I was so like I always wanted to be Shawn Michaels, like as far as in the ring goes.
Yeah.
None of the other stuff, but
Yeah.
in the ring, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but I was too big. I was too big of a dude to pull that stuff off. And
That lucha style, yeah,
yeah, because
yeah,
that's the thing. It's like until you meet some of these guys, you really don't have the perspective on their actual size. And it wasn't until I actually met Sean and I realized, holy fuck, I tower over this guy. There's no way in hell. Like even the kip ups, the nip ups, all that stuff. No fucking way in my
Dude,
life.
they bill
You
him
know,
as 6'1", but he's definitely
oh
5'10".
no. I would say 5'10" is probably with cowboy boots on. He's probably
It's
five
generous,
eight.
him. Yeah, I'm being
Yeah,
generous. Yeah, because he's not that
yeah.
big.
He's
Because
he's a little.
when he was with the Rockers, he looked tiny.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know?
totally,
Yeah,
man. Yeah. I mean, I can tell you, like I met Benoit a few times, and you know, notoriously, he was one of the guys that Kevin Nash called the vanilla midgets.
yeah. He was
Benoit
tiny.
wasn't sure, yeah, not a huge guy,
Yeah,
but it's funny meeting him versus meeting Sean and their presence being
yeah.
so very different. Sean was so paranoid, so afraid, like just like
Mhm.
you could tell he was so nervous and uncomfortable being around wrestling fans or just anybody that he didn't know really. Whereas
Yeah,
Benoit, a bit more quiet and reserved, and like I had a couple of good conversations with him before things happened,
yeah,
which I will always be thankful for because he was such a nice guy to me. Um,
yeah.
and there are people in the business that I can tell you that were not nice guys to me too.
Scum. Yeah,
Um,
so I've crossed a few of them.
yeah, never meet your childhood heroes, kids.
Yeah,
They'll try
some
to
of them,
fuck you
some
in the
you kind of get disappointed. But I was always of the guys of like, and I would always tell this to guys that I would train or fuck with, and I'd do like, don't fuck with them, man. Like, if they wanted to go, like, well, I'm gonna go take a picture with them, like, don't fuck with them. Like, don't.
Yeah.
I always say this. I go, you don't act like a mark, they won't treat you like one.
Yep.
And they go, what? I go, if you don't act like a mark, he won't treat you like one. So if you go up to him and ask him for a picture, he's gonna treat you like a mark. But if
Yeah.
you go over, you earn his respect. At the end of the night, you go up to him and say, "Hey, man, you mind if I get a picture with you?" You'd be surprised how much nicer he is, or they
Oh
are.
man.
You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and they would always do that. But I would never ask because I would always tell them like, I ain't fuck, like I don't know what happened when I was coming up through the training. Um, but like I was trained by Tony DeVito, obviously,
Mhm. Yeah.
and I used to tell DeVito like he said, "Oh, you don't know this guy, you don't know this guy." Is like, buddy, I idolize no man. I was like, "You understand me?" I was like, "I'm not gonna sit here." I was like, "I have two people that I wanna that if I ever met, I wouldn't be able to speak. That's the Undertaker and the Macho Man Randy Savage. And unfortunately, he ain't with us no more, so I never have that issue, you know. But I
Oh,
said anybody else, like I'm just like, well, you're a man, I'm a man, we're just men, you know.
yeah.
It's like just treat it like it is, man. Like but I can always tell when someone that you respect, you're
Hmm.
not gonna respect after you engage with them. Like I'm a
At
good judge
one.
that way. Yeah, so
Yeah.
like a lot of times I could see from a distance, like if I say anything to him, they
Hmm.
are gonna return. The return isn't gonna be worth the investment.
Right.
So I just
Totally.
leave it as this. It's just a fuck up. You do your thing,
Yeah.
I do my thing. And if we cross paths and we engage in conversation, so be it. But I'm not going out of my way ever to
Yeah.
to to do that kind of shit. You know, so I just want like I didn't know that you were I didn't know that you trained and to be a wrestler and shit like that at school. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah. Loved it, man. Like, honest to God, if there was something that I could have done, like, there are two things in my life that, like, if it was wrestling or voice acting, those
Oh yeah.
would be the two greatest things that
Yeah.
I mean, I would take so much pride in all of it, no matter
I
what.
just think pro wrestlers love playing pretend.
Of
I think if it's
course.
one common
Yeah.
ground on all of us is we all love to play pretend, whether it's voice acting, just being a wrestler. Um, we just love to kind of get away from the real shit and just kind of live in the fantasy, you know. And I couldn't agree with that aspect more because I'm the same way I said this morning. I have two dream jobs. One of them was to be a voice actor for
Mhm.
cartoons or video games, and the other was to be a radio DJ because I would just love. I'm mostly a sports talk radio guy because I
Yeah.
love just engaging in conversation and talking about. about shit that I might not agree on, and and like debate shit. Sometimes I like to debate. Sometimes I don't because
Mhm.
people are dummies. Like you said, people are dumb
Yeah.
before we went live. These people are stupid.
Oh
But
man.
and
Yeah.
like I said, it seems like all of us have had a couple bad weeks
Oh
in
yeah.
this
Yeah.
space. Dealing
Everything
with other people. But
for
one
sure.
thing's for sure. Um, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today, brother.
Oh,
Like
bro.
for real, I'm proud to talk to you. I'm so happy to have you come in on the chats. Thank you so much for being involved with the pre-roll. Now with
My
this
absolute
wrestling, so we talk about wrestling. Now we're both wrestlers
Oh,
again, in
yeah. Oh, yeah.
virtually, but we're wrestlers. But
Look,
um,
let me get
I'm,
my gold out here.
uh
Let me tell you
oh, brother.
something. Nothing can ruin the impression that you'll make when you after introducing yourself and saying, "Well, sir, I'm training. I'm this and that," is asking them to autograph your belt, your replica, but
Yeah,
then going above and beyond and not asking them to autograph on the strap, but actually autograph on the center
plate.
plate.
That's sick, dude.
It's kind
Oh,
of psychotic, but uh,
hey man, it's good.
Austin,
Oh yeah,
Brock, Burt, Hogan, and Big Show.
that's fucking.
Four out of five ain't bad. Ain't bad.
That's a goddamn fantastic list of people to have
It's
on that
not too
plate,
shabby,
brother.
right?
Yeah, for real,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Like I said, thank you, brother, for so much, man.
Thank you,
And
man.
I appreciate everything. Like I said, I appreciate all the. When I asked about the 3D printing, you was very generous with your knowledge, and I
Yeah,
appreciate that as always. I hate when people hoard the shit, or they,
dude,
want
you can't. It's the only way to help other people grow and get more under their belt and more ideas. Like
to.
because
Absolutely,
the other thing about 3D printing is like so many people don't really understand it or have like a couple little tidbits of things
hmm
that they get about it, but they don't
yeah,
really grasp all of it. So
yeah,
like anytime, anytime I can help with anything, I'm more than happy to because like that's the only way other people grow. If you have somebody else that knows how they're doing it, knows what they're doing, share that knowledge. People that like, nobody that keeps that knowledge and hoards that stuff is going to be teaching or growing anybody else, let alone a community or anything like that.
facts,
So
facts.
absolutely share it, plant them
Yes.
seeds.
Beautiful. And if that's any way we can wrap it up, that would be the best way. So that's where we're going to leave it. You can catch Neekotronus on Instagram and on YouTube at Neekotronus. If he has a YouTube, I don't know if you're post. Maybe we
Yep.
talked about
Yep.
that before. But if you do, he does have a YouTube. So please
Yep.
follow Neekotronus. I'm going to have all that stuff in the comments or the description below. I appreciate all you guys. And obviously, stay tuned because the pre roll is following this episode of Talking Figures. So that is Neekotronus. I am Tony. I will see you in a few minutes. Until then, keep playing, everybody.